Morning, everyone. At least I got one. Hope you all are having a good morning. So before we get started, there's something I want to discuss, an opportunity. This was shared with me by Dr. Caden, and the details of it you may want to research on your own, but it seems like an opportunity that might be of interest to a few of you. So this is actually, I'll go ahead and go to the website. It's called racetheai.com is the name of the website. And this is actually an innovation challenge for accounting students and professionals. And the primary emphasis is going to be on the students being able to do their activities. So basically you can kind of see, it gives you a very brief piece of information at the beginning. It's going to be a challenge where accounting students and professionals get hands-on experience using the latest AI tools to complete financial accounting tasks. And the company TrueUp, they're a gamification company, or gamification tools developer for educational purposes. Now, you probably have heard my fondness of gamification. I like using games in the classroom to kind of teach, and this is something that's alluding to that. This is apparently an AI challenge, which I think is interesting. So the sponsors for this, or the company that's running this, they're doing a contest with teams of up to 4 people with a maximum of 2 teams per university. And the first prize of this gets $3,000, which I think it's interesting. It'd be a fascinating experience to be a part of, with the added upside of additional money for the team. That would just be a definite benefit. So if you please between now and next week, if you're interested in this, take a look at it, see if there's something you'd want to participate in. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give priority to the graduate students who want to participate in this. And then if there are undergrads who want to participate, once their team, basically if there are 8 of you in this room who want to participate, then you'll get the priority. There's more than 8 of you, I'm going to throw darts and see which one I hit, and those are the people that would kick it. I'm joking. We'll figure something out. What's up, Jared? It's actually the website that you want to go to is racetheai.com. Racetheai.com, and that will tell you a little bit about it. And you can find a little bit more about the organization if you look for TrueUp on Google, and that's how I found out. I'll build a little bit about it. But there's more details in there. We can talk a little bit more about it in depth if you're interested. But yeah, I'm going to announce this first, and then I'm going to hit you guys up, see if there's any interest in it over the next few weeks, and then I'll start worrying about whether we want to bring in undergraduate students to supplement. But I think it'd be an interesting opportunity, especially for those of you who have passing interest in AI and want to learn what the tools can do, which that definitely qualifies as me, though I'm not a student. So, all right, today we're talking about information security and privacy. And based on the way that I create some of these assignments, you can kind of tell when I'm getting really, really bored with the way that my method of delivery. I was developing this assignment, just for a little bit of context. I remodeled the structure of this particular course last year. This actually took place close to the end of the semester in previous years, as opposed to being a week 6 item. And I was just really, really, really worn out. And I was just like saying, I got to do something for information security. And I was really, really excited when I found that Stride paper saying Stride or InfoSec Cinema. I was like, okay, well, this will be something that's engaging. And while I don't think it has the rapturous, thunderous delivery that I think everybody's not oohing and awing about it, it is a little bit more fun than just going through our normal spiel of me talking to a group leader and them telling me what their thoughts are, or their group's thoughts are. So we are going to preface this with some remedial discussion, some talk about this. I've tried to organize this course in a way that is fairly intuitive. The first 5 weeks we talked about IT governance and IT controls and standards. So things that are dealt with information technology administration and control in that area. And now we're moving on to we're going to talk a little bit about information security and the importance of keeping information safe. We're going to talk a little bit about that today at a very broad level. We're going to talk more in detail about cybersecurity next week, and then the couple of weeks after that, we're going to have 3 weeks on cybersecurity. Don't get too excited. Cybersecurity is fun. Next week is very technical, which is a little bit dry. So spoiler alert, that will be a little bit not as fun. But then we get to talk about some more broad definitions as a social implications, which is a lot of fun. One of my traditional approaches for this, it's a few years old now, is that I have had my students watch a episode of Last Week Tonight by John Oliver. Does anybody watch that show regularly? I always wear that. It's like I'm saying, what are you guys doing with your life if you're not watching that show? They're like such an incredible research show. Now, again, it does have an implicit bias in there. There's definitely a bias leaning in a certain direction, which I recognize. But any show that has that level of research associated with it immediately has my approval, even if does represent some sort of bias. But you're going to be watching that, and it'll be very interesting because some of you may say, Dr. Barnes had assigned us to watch something with foul language, and it's true, I do. There's a lot of foul language in those episodes, but yeah, that's going to be something that we'll be talking about in a few weeks, and then we're going to wrap that up in week 9 with the target data breach. Week 10 will be about data management and governance, which technically speaking, I probably should start with data and then move to information since information is derived from data. But I think information is far more important in the grand scheme of things, and there's a lot more development that we can talk about from it. So I had you all do some basic research. I gave you some sites to look at, a Cisco website that talked about information security, and then talking a little bit about the NIST privacy framework. Is anybody really concerned about privacy in this day and age with the information that they share online? So hopefully you have some concerns in that area. And if you didn't, hopefully looking at this NIST privacy framework give you a little bit more, I guess, concerns, but also security. This is certainly a problem that we do need to be aware of, especially with our information being readily accessible. We're going to get into a little bit more detail on that. And then we're going to talk about the stride security model, which normally I will not use Wikipedia as a site. All right. I will tell you, use Wikipedia as a resource to find other resources. I actually struggled for about an hour to find a good academic paper on the stride security model, and I could not find anything that was even close to as manageable as Wikipedia. There was other information, there were other resources to use, but it was all kind of contained within other information that was completely irrelevant. And so I said, I'm tired. I want to go home and go to sleep. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Wikipedia site. Actually, it was probably like about 2 p.m., so I wasn't that tired. I probably still wanted to go home and go to sleep, but yeah, I probably, probably late in the afternoon. And so don't do as I say. Like if you're doing a research paper, do not use Wikipedia as a site, as a resource, or a citation. You can use it as a resource, but you only to identify other resources. And then we'll get into the fun part of it, which hopefully you had a little bit of fun with this. You were able to engage with it to some degree. I don't know. We'll see if some of you are putting up vague references. I didn't bring anything to throw, but I'll mentally throw stuff at you. So yeah, so we'll figure that out. It's like teacher is committing mental violence against us. Is that allowed? It's like yeah. We'll find out. We'll find out if there's a complaint. All right, so let's start out. We're gonna start out pretty basic. So we're going to talk a little bit about information security, and Troy, I'm going to start at the top this time. So you're going to start off with this. So how is information security defined according to the first article?
Information security refers to the processes and tools designed and deployed to protect sensitive business information from unauthorized modification, disruption, destruction, and inspection.
So modification, disruption, destruction, and protect. What was the last one? Inspection. All right. So basically anything that's kind of been manipulation or access to information that you don't want that information to be scrutinized. You don't want it to be breached. So yeah, the information security, or InfoSec is often shortened to, is basically the practice and policies and principles to protect digital data and other kinds of information. And so you will hear that term used bandied about. It's not maybe the last time that we'll hear InfoSec. I'm not sure what the purpose of that. I guess there's some sort of purpose in shortening information security at InfoSec that just seems like a really long abbreviation to me. I guess IS was already taken, but anyway. It really important, particularly in this day and age, because we do know that information is shared at astronomical rates nowadays. There was often a piece of information that was shared. No pun intended. There was a piece of information that was shared several years ago saying that the volume of information doubles roughly every 2 years. I don't know to what scale that continues to this day and age. This is something I heard a decade ago, and I'm not sure if that rate has continued over the past decade. I've got to assume that's probably close to that. But as we find more detail that we want to gather data on, that means necessarily there's going to be more information available because, as we all know, information is derived from data. And so the protection of that becomes very paramount. Something we're going to be very, very aware of as we start talking about some of these cybersecurity attacks or cyber attacks that have occurred, and we look at examples of this, that kind of leads to this idea that information represents a valuable asset to organizations. And that's it's a critical definition. We're gonna talk about it more with data. We're gonna talk about whether or not data is an asset. And that question is, it seems like, well, yeah, Dr. Barnes, it has value, so obviously an asset. I'm going to kind of challenge your assumptions on that. I'm going to challenge your assumptions, but for right now, we need to kind of keep the idea that we do need to protect information because it does have valuable, that discernible value can actually be something that's that other entities would use for nefarious purposes, or even maybe completely honest purposes, but acquire it through nefarious means. I don't know if that's possible to do something nefariously and then just use it for legitimate purposes. There's some questions to be asked about that. But second part of the question says, consider our prior examinations of IT governance and IT controls. What characteristics does information security share with these concepts? Let's move on to Clayton. What would your group identify in this area?
So that theoretically, the more with the security information law, IT governance has broader scope. IT governance specifically handles the integration of processes, frameworks, and decision-making mechanisms to direct the use of information technology within an organization. IT controls deal with the control systems implemented within the organization and assess their effectiveness at preventing misstatements, frauds, and data breaches. InfoSec may be considered a key part of IT controls as information security producing message control itself.
Excellent. So as we established early on when we talked about IT governance primary objective is delivery of value, because that's what the organization is ultimately trying to accomplish. Remember, we had this whole big hoopla about this when we talked about IT governance. Isn't this crazy? You think IT governance, you think security, isn't that right? I kind of went on a Seinfeld type rant. Yeah, that was our takeaway from when we talked about IT governance. IT governance is much broader in scope. Information technology controls, IT controls, I think we can also say are broad in scope. Ultimately speaking, we can say that controls do address risk because we know that that's the purpose of controls. But what is the whole purpose of that? Is to prevent any malfeasance from occurring or any issues from occurring that would prohibit the organization from being able to accomplish its objectives. So ultimately speaking, IT controls are kind of focused on the same thing as IT governance, albeit there's a focus on security with controls as opposed to an overall focus on value. Now, when we talk about information security, that is a very specific component of this. That is a very specific component. It's the security over information that the organization acquires and develops. And so Clayton made a very important point with his definition, with group's definition. I got to give credit where credit is due. Group's definition is that they said that information security can be viewed as a component of IT controls, and I would agree with that. Is that most of our information that's developed for the organization is going to be rendered through information technology systems. Hence the reason we call it information technology, because it's technology used for the conveyance and support of information. So yeah, we can consider that to be similar components. So that kind of answers the other question: how's information security unique? Again, it's not as broad and all-encompassing, but it is definitely critical. And so, yeah, that kind of leads us into our next area. So how'd you look at something called the NIST privacy framework? Now, just as a spoiler, we're going to talk about NIST again. And I'm going to use the NIST framework next week. When I'm talking about NIST framework next week, I'm going to be specifically talking about the cybersecurity framework. And you may say, Dr. Barnes, what's the difference? And I say, well, let's not spoil it for next week. Okay, let's wait till next week. The answer is that they're very, very similar. They do have some overlap, but the privacy framework deals specifically, as it talks about, with the privacy information that's used for certain purposes, and privacy can be violated either intentionally or unintentionally, whereas cybersecurity usually deals with an intentional act to violate the security of information. So there is a difference there, but there can be a relationship. So we're going to talk a little bit about the NIST cybersecurity framework next week. But what is the broad objective of the NIST privacy framework? Jake, what does your group say? Question number 2. No worries. So according to the second article, what is the broad objective of the NIST privacy framework?
We said that it can be used to measure and improve an organization's privacy program, a set of control procedures to help organizations identify risks in their environment, help allocate resources to those risks, therefore, 5 different functions. Do you want to explain the
Just list them off. We don't need to go through them. Explain
identify,
them.
govern, control?
Okay, hold on. What did you say? You said identify, govern, control, communicate, protect. Anything else that we should add to those? So every one of them end with a little -P, is that correct? Yeah. How come you didn't include the -P, Jake? I'm disappointed, you know?
No.
So I'm obviously yanking Jane. I apologize. I'm just giving you a hard time. So it's not the -P is not really critical because the important identification is the components themselves. Now, why is there a little -P at the end of it? And the answer is that we're going to talk. Well, it's privacy is what it stands for, yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit next week about components that are very closely related that are going to be a different framework. So we're actually trying to distinguish which framework are they identified part of. So when you see that -P, it's saying this is the item, and it's part of the privacy framework. So the -P is just for the NIST privacy framework. So yeah, don't feel bad. I gave another student last year exactly the same hard time about not putting the -P at the end. And so it was Kyle Seaball actually. So yeah, and you didn't deserve it, but Kyle definitely did. Okay. So anyway, you can tell him I said that. Yeah, when we talk about the NIST framework, the goal of each function, identify, govern, control, communicate, protect. Fairly intuitive. I don't think that there's a lot that required for explanation, but this does lead to an interesting question. Is this framework reminiscent of another framework that we've studied in this course and other courses being a kind of a big hint? Hannah, what do you think? Was this framework reminiscent of another framework?
Components that align.
That's right. Didn't get too clever. You just said COSO, and COSO is the correct answer. Now, could you argue that it's similar to other frameworks we've studied? It says, yeah, it definitely has some overlap with ISO 27000 series. I think you could even argue COSO and COBIT and ITIL, but probably the clearest association is going to be the COSO framework. What are the 5 components of the COSO framework? Control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information communication, and monitoring. Okay. Now, am I just needlessly spatting those off? No, you guys are gonna have to know that for the CPA exam. But yeah, how does this relate to that? Well, you can actually draw a pretty close line to these. If we look at identify, that's probably a risk assessment step. Govern is going to be similar to control environment. Control is control activities. Communicate is information communication. And then there's a subtle distinction between protect and monitoring. I think that those are kind of separate components, but for the most part, there is a very close alignment between those framework, which is great news for you, because if you have to learn the COSO framework for one exam, and then you take another exam and have to learn the NIST privacy framework, you already know the NIST privacy framework. It's basically the COSO framework. All right. So it's good to know. Now, for those of you taking TCP, you don't have to worry about the NIST privacy framework. So that's good news. Yes, sir.
Could you argue that the NIST framework is similar to the ISO 27000 series?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I saw that it listed and ISO 27701 as like a specific framework that could be crosswalked against.
Yes, I think there's definitely overlap amongst all the frameworks, and I think that of the 3 frameworks of our IT governance that we talked about, this one has the closest parallel to the ISO or to the NIST privacy framework. ISO 27000 series and NIST privacy framework are going to have quite a bit of overlap. I would suspect that if we look them in an organization, that they're going to be used fairly interchangeably. So yeah, important to note, but extremely reminiscent of COSO based on the structure. So then we talked about STRIDE acronym. Okay, so what does STRIDE stand for? Cole, what did your group come up with on this one?
We said spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege.
Yep. Spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. Now, I did have you define each one of these categories, but I'm going to hold off on the definitions because we're going to talk about the definitions in detail when we go through each of our examples. But this was developed by I'm gonna butcher these names, Prerit Garg and Lauren Kohnfelder at Microsoft, as part of their development in, I believe it was mid 2000s is when this came up. It's been a long time since I've done the review of this. But the STRIDE framework is kind of considered to be a strong mnemonic for threats that you would face with respect to information security. And as you were going to see, this is something that has been intuitively accepted as threats for a very long period of time. We're going to talk about some examples, and my students never fail to amaze me when we talk about the examples. Some of them are going to talk about modern shows. Some of them are going to go back. I definitely had an online student that talked about an episode or an event from the Godfather movies, saying that was an example of one of these. So this is not something new when we talk about threats. Threats of these magnitude have existed for long before information systems existed. We just kind of have to frame it a certain way. But yeah, good definitions there. All right, so before we move on to the fun part, before we move on to the part where you all get to expand your creative horizons, and it's not a lot of creativity in advanced AIS, sadly, but I'm gonna call on you for this one. Let's go ahead and talk about the CIA triad. So I had you do a web search for CIA triad. Now, have we seen the CIA triad before? Like before this course, have you seen this? Yes, this was an AIS. Okay, this was something that was included in the AIS course, and this is a very, very small element when we talked about information security at the end of the course, but it was something that was prevalent. And I think I actually included on the exams. I talk about this question. So confirmation, information, or confidentiality, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. 3 elements that have to be present in order to make sure that information stays secure. Now, are those the only elements? No, but I think that those are a good one. And I don't know what it is about accountants and trying to set up triangles for information, trying to say that there's 3 elements and only 3 elements. There's probably a lot more expansion to go on to, but we have seen this before in this particular course, though. We did see these elements listed as part of something else. Does anybody remember where we saw it in this course? So we talked about it very briefly for the ISO 27000 series. All right, the ISO 27000 series, which makes sense because what was the whole purpose of the ISO 27000 series again? Creation of an information security management system. So if we're talking about what are the necessary elements for information security, and we already know that the CIA triad is there, then we can say, yeah, that makes sense because we're talking specifically about information security today. All right. With that, I just realized that I've got names listed there. Cyberbullying. Sorry, guys. All right. Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's have some fun with this. So we have got 6 STRIDE events. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a definition, and then we're going to go through each of the groups, and I'm going to get to tell me what your group came up with. And I may say, oh, I know that exactly what you're talking about, or I may say, can you give us a little bit more detail? So you may want to just be prepared to describe the event. Hopefully the group leaders are in that situation. I have known in the past that group leaders have taken information specifically from their group members, and they had no idea what the context of it is. So if the group leader is like, I don't know, I didn't come up with this one, then you feel free to call out your group members. Okay. I may do so if I find necessary. So I say, okay, who came up with this? And then have the group member come up with it. So let's go ahead and start out with spoofing. So a spoofing attack is a situation in which a person or program successfully identifies as another by falsifying data to gain an illegitimate advantage. I've tried to do that many times by calling myself Dr. Cade, and it never works for me. Okay, so what is an example of spoofing that you found in your research? What was an example? So Troy, we'll start with you.
All right, so in the Halloween movie from 2007, there's a scene where a girlfriend asks her boyfriend to go get beer. Then Michael Myers kills the dude and comes back with beer, but he's wearing a ghost costume, so she thinks it's her boyfriend, and then uses that to gain access.
Oh, okay, yeah, gain access to the house by putting on a costume. Yeah, did he bring the beer?
He did.
Okay, good. That's important to note. Yeah. So yeah, there's a small upside there. I mean, she wasn't going to enjoy the beer very long, but yeah. So yeah. Good identification. Good identification. Clayton, what's your group come up with?
So for
Spoofing. Yeah, we're gonna do every single one of these for every group.
you mind that's something, because I feel like you would actually explain it to.
Tyler, you've had the buck passed to you. All right, go ahead.
We're a new hope.
Good one. Good one.
Whenever they disguise themselves as stormtroopers.
Yes.
Infiltrate the Star Destroyer and free Princess Leia.
Yep. So yeah. So if you've not spoiler, if you have not seen Star Wars, some of the stormtroopers are not actually stormtroopers. What does Princess Leia say? You're awfully short for a stormtrooper. And Luke pulls off the mask and, my name's Luke Skywalker. I'm here to save you. Okay. So yeah. And then they replicated that entire movie in episode 7. And so yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Andrew is just really excited that I said that. Yeah. So yeah, good example. Good example. I'm definitely an old school Star Wars fan. Of course, I was 5 years old when the original Star Wars movie came out, so I remember seeing it in theaters, the original movie. So yeah. And then they butchered the entire franchise, but that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion. All right, spoofing. Moving on. Jake, what'd your group come up with?
He said, so movie Catch Me If You Can.
Mhm.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Leo's character, Frank Abagnale, pretending he is a known counterfeiter, and he pretends to be a Secret Service agent after being caught in his hotel by the counterfeiting unit of the FBI, which is Tom Hanks. So he pretends to be someone he's not, gives fake credentials, and then gets away because Tom Hanks thinks that he's legit.
Yeah, that's a great scene, by the way. Is like I don't think I could be that calm and that poised if like the FBI was breaking down my door and just saying, okay, we finally caught you. It's like, no, actually, I'm Secret Service. Here's my wallet. You keep my wallet. It's safe. I trust you. And the wallet is completely empty. And so, yeah, that's a good scene. Good identification. Hannah, what'd your group come up with?
Said in Snow White, evil stepmother disguises herself as an old lady for Snow White.
Oh, that's an old school one. So yeah, spoofing going on in Disney cartoons. The original Disney cartoons, Snow White, back in what, 1934 was the when it was?
37.
Oh, 37. Sometime in the 30s. Yeah. So yeah. Basically apparently Snow White's was it her godmother? Is that is the evil queen? Sorry, I'm thinking of a different movie. The evil queen taking spoofing to a bigger degree before information security was even a thing. So yeah. And then Cole, you're the wrap up. What'd your group come up with?
So we said in the Dark Knight, when the Joker dresses up as a nurse, they gain restricted access in the hospital department demonstrated.
You could have done the opening scene, when he pretends to be one of the bank robbers, but no, you had to do it as he dresses up a nurse. Yeah,
That was the funny one.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, and that's talk about a movie I saw in the theaters. I saw that movie way too many times in the theaters. I was obsessed with that movie. So yeah, good identification. All right, tampering. Second parts. Often used to mean intentional. Oh, by the way, I guess I should probably mention I did these as well. I did all of mine on the same instance. I did episodes of The Office. So for spoofing, I said when there's an episode where it's a cold open where Jim routes Dwight's phone to his own phone and pretends to be Dwight. So like he actually does it both the mobile phone and the office phone. And one point, Dwight's mom calls and says, "Hello, mother. I have married. Tell Feather." And he's like, "What a nice woman." Yeah. So yeah, I trying to replicate the scenes. I probably shouldn't try to do that. So yeah. Tampering. Tampering often means intentional modification of products in a way that would make them harmful to the consumer. All right. So what are some examples of tampering that you came up with? Let's start with Clayton on this one.
I actually think it's good. I used Office Space.
Office Space. Okay.
In this film, a group of 3 employees fed up with the restructuring of their company and potential job loss, sneak into the accounting system and siphon money through fake accounts. It's an example of tampering if they're attempting to modify accounting data to steal from the company.
Yep, under the old Superman 3 scenario, yeah. Which has anybody ever seen the or Superman 3, the old Christopher Reeve Superman 3? Clayton Saud, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it was a very bad movie. Man. Yeah, that's
9 or something like
yeah,
that.
the computers couldn't do that back then, but but special effects were amazing. Yeah, don't watch like if you're gonna watch the old Superman movies back from the 70s, early 80s, watch 1 and 2 and then say, okay, we're basically done. All right. Don't watch 3 and 4. 3 and 4 will make you realize that exceeded their grasp. So yeah. Tampering, staying with that. Let's go ahead and go to Jake. What did your group come up with?
So in Wolf of Wall Street, when Stratton Othman gets raided by the FBI, there's a quick shot to Jordan Belfort's right-hand man, Donnie Azoff, just clicking delete on all of their files.
Yeah.
And deleting all of the fraudulent transactions so the FBI cannot find them.
Yep. So yeah, trying to stop law enforcement. We would never do that as accountants, would we? No. And Anderson definitely didn't do that for Enron or anything like that. No, it's not happened. All right, Hannah, what'd your group come up with?
Well, we stuck with Snow White. The evil stepmother tampered with the apple that put her to a deep sleep.
All right, so the apple was poisoned, and that was definitely harmful for the consumer of the apple. Yeah, literally consumption of the apple was a problem. All right, Cole, what did your group come up with?
I've not seen this one, so I'm gonna pass it on to Brett.
Okay, Brett.
I said in the movie Tron Legacy, Sam Flynn breaks into the Encom Tower, which is like his deceased father's company. He goes into like the data center and hacks into the computer, modifies computer information to release a new software to the public to free instead of for it.
Yeah, yes. By the way, it's a grossly underrated movie, by the way. I think it's a much better movie. It's just, that everybody was kind of saying that it was not a good sequel to Tron, but I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed that film. And I probably should stop expostulating, so we got to get moving on this. But yeah, good example. Good example from Tron Legacy. And then Troy, what'd your group say?
We went with Jurassic Park. Dennis Mandry is like the IT guy for the park with Thrive, so he can steal dinosaur embryos, and he does that by hacking with the computer system and modifying some of the code and send it security.
Yeah, good old Wayne Knight back when he was still doing the Seinfeld gig. Yeah, that's cameo in his film. I guess I shouldn't say a cameo because his role was pivotal to the plot of the film. So yeah. All right, moving on to information disclosure. So information disclosure sounds like a good thing, but this is basically referring to information disclosure that should not be disclosed. Privacy breach or data leak, a security violation in which sensitive, protected, or confidential data is copied, transmitted, viewed, stolen, or used by an individual unauthorized to do so. Jake, what's your group come up with this on this one? Yes. What's that? Or did I? Sorry, I did, didn't I? Steve, I'm sorry. Yeah, apparently I can't spell. It's died. Yeah. Let's go to repudiation. Failure to provide it proof and integrity of the origin of data. So Jake, what did you say, repudiation?
You know, in the Polar Express, where there's a giant wall of TV screens of all of the kids, and they're in like the Santa control room, and it zooms in on Stephen, and he keeps saying, "I didn't do it." When the elves are talking about all of the different bad things that he's done, and now he's talking about it. So,
Oh,
the inability to take responsibility for his actions is pretty.
yeah. I was very much a kid to like that when I was young. So yeah, except I didn't do it. So yeah. Good. Hannah, what'd your group say?
So. Tries to cover up Goofy's errors and claims she's not responsible.
Okay, yeah. There's the reason why she's called Cruella. Yeah. So when you were referring to 101 Dalmatians, are you referring to the original animated film, or are you talking about the live action film? Or does it matter? Which one were you thinking about? The animated film? Okay, good. I didn't really like in the live action film how they changed the name of the spelling to be devil, like literally devil, Cruella de Vil. But that's just me. All right, Cole, what'd your group come up with?
We had the exact same answer as group 3.
Exact same answers.
The Polar Express.
Polar Express? Oh, wow. Guess great minds think alike. Either that or there's an information security breach. So yeah, one of the two. So all right. Troy, what'd your group come up with? Did you do Polar Express, Troy? Okay.
Breaking that scene, where Paul goes in there and creates this confession video, but it's not a confession, he's just putting all the blame and all of the whole program on his like brother-in-law thing, and so.
Yeah, so it's like when scene 5 when everything's breaking down and he's just kind of like saying, yeah, my brother-in-law was responsible. I'm just a chemistry teacher. Yeah. So yeah, good one. And then Clayton, what'd your group come up with?
So we did another Star Wars.
Okay.
Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, specifically Order 66, where all the clone troopers shoot all the Jedi.
Ooh, yeah.
Sleeper agents, that was our philosophy behind the refutability.
Yeah. So yeah, and basically kind of say, yep, these are your enemies now, kill those enemies. And they did. They did a very thorough job, and the Emperor took over and all was dark for a very long time. Until the return of the Jedi. And so yeah, so we got that. All right, now we'll do information disclosure, which I definitely did not skip over repudiation for information disclosure. I'm going to edit that part out of the video. I don't know how to edit a video. What are you talking about? So, information disclosure, Hannah, we'll start with you.
And you'll be stars and send it to the forces.
So definitely information disclosure, a privacy breach, but for a good purpose. So we talked about nefarious actions for good means, and we talked about the necessity of that. Without that, we don't have Star Wars. So yeah, we just have the Empire. Cole, what'd your group say?
We said Iron Man, Pepper breaks into Tony's office and gains access to information that she's not authorized to, like the schematics for the Iron Man suit and other weapon information.
Yeah. And then Obadiah says, "Can you leave the paper?" And finds out that Pepper's up to shenanigans. And then there's a very, very clunky battle at the end of the movie, but still a good movie, still a solid start to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, Troy, what'd your group come up with?
We were making a hospital scene, getting from the ceiling and then after the CIA.
You know, I've seen zero of the Mission Impossible movies except for the first one, and I know that one. Okay, I know that one. It's the where Tom Cruise basically says, how far can we take this? And then every subsequent Mission Impossible movie says, how much further can we take that? So, but yeah, good one. Breaking into the CIA and having to dangle. I gotta imagine if a room truly existed like that, that'd probably trip the alarm like several times a day. Just basically you have to have any kind of authorization. And if there's any kind of temperature environment change, if there's any kind of motion, it's just really, really locked down. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling, guys. Clayton, what'd your group come up with?
We also did Rogue One.
Oh, I'll just said Rogue One. That's why the reaction was. Okay, all right. So kind of same thing. All right. Well, again, great minds thinking alike, or again, data breaches, one of the two. And then Jake, what'd your group come up with?
We said in Ocean's 11 to gain access to the bank vault codes, Matt Damon's character, Linus Caldwell, who's also posing as like, I can't remember exactly who, he's also posing someone fake, so this could be spoofing too, but he gets into a fake altercation with a fake casino employee, and then the distraction with his sleight of hand skill allows him to steal a passkey from another real employee.
Yeah.
To get into, who's trying to stop the altercation.
Yeah.
Use that passkey to get access to the vault.
Good. Yeah. We use a multiple different stride events right there simultaneously. Those guys are very excellent thieves and can violate information security very effectively. Actually, the Oceans movies, I would include Oceans 8, the new one in that. But one of those things you see on TV, you just have to kind of sit down and watch it for a little while, just because they're so cool in nature. But we've definitely learned a lot about how to commit crimes from the Oceans films. So yeah, it's good to know. Denial of service. So a cyber attack in which the perpetrator seeks to make a machine or network resource unavailable to its intended users, temporarily and indefinitely disrupting services post-connected to the internet. Now, I'm just curious if we're going to have a Star Wars: The Destruction of the Death Star. So that would definitely suspend some services there. We'll see what happens. Cole, we'll start with you on this one.
We said in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Electro overloads like Times Square's power grid, and then goes after a power station and eventually causes a mass blackout, which denies like all electrical service.
That would definitely deny some service right there for sure. Troy, what'd your group say?
Use the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet. There's like a virus that creates a clone of Wreck-It Ralph and just goes across the internet, shuts down websites and no one can get into them.
I gotta imagine if that happened in the reality. I guess that kind of has happened in reality. Like when Facebook shut down a few years ago, everybody was just kind of going crazy and throwing tantrum. Businesses were like saying this is costing us millions of dollars. But yeah, that's a good example of denial of service and very relevant to this discussion. Clayton, what'd your group say?
I am going to ask this once again to Tyler.
Is it another Star Wars one? All right.
It's not the Death Star.
Okay.
It's episode 6, specifically where they destroy the shield generator protecting the Death Star.
Good. All right. So yeah, denial of that protection service. Yeah. So and then Lando Calrissian can go in and finish the deed, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. And then Jake, what'd your group say?
So in the movie Dumb Money, that's about the GameStop stock shortage, Robinhood founders, they realized that many people were trying to get onto the system to sell their GameStop stock. And there was like a ton of billionaires calling them. There's one specific, and I can't remember what his name is. But essentially Roaring Kitty, the guy that was behind the whole GameStop. So he told everybody that like now's the time to sell if you're gonna sell. And so it caused everybody to try and get into Robinhood, but then they couldn't. And yeah, it cost the owners or the founders of Robinhood to lose a lot of money. So,
Yeah, I seem to remember that's based on the real event, and that was actually something that real happened. I remember like reading about that, and like it was kind of a big fiasco, and everybody was very, very unhappy. So yeah, good example. And wrap up with Hannah. What'd your group say? Okay, yeah. So yeah, basically can't use the real security footage because what was the name of the guy, the tech guy? I think it starts with an L. I don't remember. It's been a lot. But Ocean's 11, yeah, basically you can't use security footage if it's been hacked. So certainly a problem. All right, last one is elevation of privilege. Elevation of privilege is after exploiting a bug, design flaw, or configuration oversight of an operating system or software application to gain elevated access to resources that are normally protected from an application or user. By the way, if anybody wants to elevate their privilege to instruct one of these class sessions, I'll take applications for that. It would not even be an actual violation of elevation of privilege because I would happily import that. I don't know. Dr. Gaten may frown on that if I did that, but yeah. So we'll see what happens. Let's go back to Troy. Troy, what was your group saying on this one?
In the Die Hard movie, Thomas Gabriel was the main bad guy. He hires hackers to attack corporate and government computer systems. So the hackers do that by initially getting low-level access to the systems and they work privilege to get administrative access.
Yeah, which would die? Which that was the fourth Die Hard movie, the one more recent one with Timothy Oliphant. That's Thomas Gabriel.
Whatever came out in 2007.
Okay, yeah. I say more recent, and then it's like 18 years ago. I'm thinking the original Die Hard movies back from the late 80s, early 90s, but yeah, good identification. Clayton, what'd your group say?
Said war games.
Ooh.
So this film high school student accidentally accesses the system of the US computer and unknowingly triggers a false alarm that could then restart World War III. It's an example of elevation of privilege as the character data in the system, compromise the system, and threaten the destruction of not just the computer system itself, but the entire world.
So that's interesting because I used to use a clip from War Games as an example in my AS classes of security compromise. So yeah, that's a very relevant example. Jake, what'd your group come up with?
To Kevin gains access to his dad's credit card. He did make a series of purchases, including a hotel suite that he should not have access to be able to do.
That's true. Yeah, very, very clever by slowing down his voice, or by making his voice sound like, oh, this is McAllister, Mr. McAllister, the father. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, good example. I wonder, would you say that when he uses the voiceover from the video that he's recording, when he uses that to kind of fool the people who are trying to get into the room or in the first movie get in the house, would that actually be an escalation of privilege or elevation of privilege? Just spoofing. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's a good point. Hannah, what'd your group say?
So in Jurassic Park, Mercury overrides access into real dinosaur DNA personally.
Okay, so we had Jurassic Park spoofing and elevation of privilege both. Okay, so Wayne Knight again violating all kinds of problems, creating all kinds of problems. And then Cole, you're the conclusion here, so give us a good one. So
You can pass this one with that.
okay, Ben, you're the conclusion, so give us a good one here.
In suits, Forward Jensen accesses Mike's personal data, finds out that he's a fraud lawyer and used that to blackmail him and figure data breach, and then Mike comes to a result case. Nola uses her hacking skills to create a fake record for Mike in the Harvard Law alumni database, getting him elevated and unauthorized credentials, and an attack is used as cover to make Mike's fraudulent claim on obtaining Harvard appeal legitimate, anyone by check that over there.
Yeah. So yeah. And I always wonder when you talk about suits, if you talk about the background of Mike, is that a spoiler? But then that's the entire plot of the show. So yeah. So, and most people already know that. So yeah, good example. So yeah, hopefully you found that interesting and fun and a good reinforcement of those. I guess I didn't use my examples. I got the first one of the examples. I got distracted, but we got a little bit of time. So repudiation, but remember tampering, excuse me, making products harmful. My office example was when they put the obscene watermark on the paper. So yeah, the one that you could was kind of copied over and put in there, and they had to do an apology for that. Repudiation and failure to proof integrity origin data. This one was easy. This was the Dunder Mifflin Infinity fraud. Okay, so yeah, doubling sales is recognized as being physical sales and online sales as well. Information disclosure, that was one where I struggled with this one, and I'm sure there's some better examples of this one, but Michael was trying to get a hold of David Wallace and pretended to be David Wallace's daughter, saying that it was an emergency. And David was like, "Honey, is everything okay?" It's Michael Scott. And David was like about ready to berate him. It says, "The entire office is here." And so David had to go into corporate mode and say, "What can I do for you, Michael?" And so denial of service. This one was a fun one. So this is an early episode of The Office. This was where Jim steals Dwight's desk and put it in the restroom. Okay, so Dwight had to go to the men's restroom in order to be able to use his desk. And then finally, elevation of privilege. Basically, somebody unauthorized getting escalation or elevated access to resources that are normally protected. This one was a little bit more challenging. I'm sure again there's a better example, but there was a series of an episode actually where Dwight isn't put in charge of Dunder Mifflin's healthcare plan, and so he kind of gets power mad and goes on a trip and starts saying that nobody's going to get any health benefits whatsoever. And there's actually a pretty clippable mean scene in there. He's talking about health benefits in the wild is the survival of the fittest, and so yeah, and there's also a whole bunch of quotable quotes from that scene. It's just like, I have immaculate health. I can raise and lower my cholesterol at will. Why would you want to raise your cholesterol? So I can lower it again. So yeah. All right. Fun stuff to share with those and things to talk about, but hopefully you had some fun with that. We are back in on Friday. Please remember your macro assignment is due at the beginning of class. We'll be starting our next Excel assignment. So see you all then.